It's Matt, and today I will be playing a game called The Witness. And before I begin, I'd just like to apologize in advance for any extra background noise you may hear. I normally do not record in my room because it's close to the street and my computer makes a bit of noise. But for this video, it's kind of necessary, seeing as I'm playing this game on it. So hopefully that's not too bothersome. Anyway, The Witness, if you're not familiar with it, is a recent puzzle game. And it is one of the best puzzle games I've played, in my opinion. It's actually quite simple, but it gets pretty tricky. So today, I will be taking you through some parts of the game, starting at the beginning. I've already finished it once, so I have a bit of an advantage when it comes to solving these puzzles. But I thought it might be fun for you to watch and hear my commentary, and maybe you can try solving them in your head as you watch. Anyway, I'll stop standing here in this tunnel and get started. Here we go. Let's just move forward here through this very long black and white tunnel with a yellow square at the end. And here is the first puzzle. As you can tell, it is incredibly complex. It requires me to hit the A button on my controller, and now I have this cursor. And what now, you ask? Well, you see that little blinking circle? I put my cursor over it, and I hit the A button. And now what? The other end is blinking, that little rounded point. So what I do is I move my cursor until it hits the end, and then I hit A. Puzzle solved. Now that one was quite difficult, I know, but I assure you it gets much, much easier. So this one introduces something a little trickier. A left turn. So at this point, you're probably wondering to yourself, before I continue ahead, what's the point of this game? Is it just drawing lines? Well, in a way, yes it is. Pretty much every puzzle in this game involves drawing a line from one point to another. But it gets very, 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 very complicated as it goes on. As you'll see, several rules are introduced that tell you how you have to draw lines and where, and they're not always obvious. So this game isn't just about drawing lines, it's about figuring out how you're supposed to draw lines and figuring out how you're supposed to figure out how to draw lines. Because this game does not explicitly tell you anything, you kind of have to figure it out for yourself, and that's the fun of it. Also, it is a very pretty game, as you can tell. So there's not really much of an explanation as to what just happened. I just woke up in this tunnel, and I'm out in this nice little yard. So let's go on the logical path forward here to this next puzzle. As you can see, this is not a straight line or a single curve. It's actually more of a maze. But even still, it's pretty easy, and it tells you the point that you need to draw towards, the blinking point. As you can see, these hard edges are not the way to go, but the rounded edge, which is blinking, is correct. So now, when you solve that puzzle, this chord lights up, and you could say that it kind of tells you where you need to go next. Though, keep in mind, this chord will not always be everywhere. This is a game with lots of exploration, and you can really go anywhere. Even if you don't know how to solve puzzles, you can just come back if you need to. But here's this next puzzle. Also pretty simple. Just draw from one point to another. These first few puzzles don't really have any complicated rules. It's just find a way to get to the end. So this one is definitely a little more complicated. But if you spend a minute, or seconds, you can kind of see a path. There it is. So, let's follow the yellow cord. And what do we have here? This big glowing force field. And the yellow cord leads to this puzzle. So, if we try this puzzle, you'll see we can't finish it because these two panels are in the way. So, the logical conclusion must be that we should follow the unlit cords and light them up, because it should open up this panel. So let's follow this one first. And on the right we have this puzzle. Now this one is a little more interesting because, as you can see, there's 2 points you can start from. But it quickly becomes obvious that this left one is completely blocked off by the gaps. So it will not be the left one. It's going to have to be the right one. So let's just follow the openings. And kind of zigzag around here. And there we go. So that's 2 out of 3. And I can also speed up my running here, my walking. So let's follow this last one. And it goes over the wall, so we'll have to find another way around. Nothing too difficult, but not quite as straightforward as the ones before it. And that's kind of the theme of this game. It gets increasingly complex. And as you can see, there's 2 exits this time. Up there and down there. And that cord goes off somewhere else. The one we want to light up is this. So you would assume it should be this exit we need to get to. So let's try it. Let's go up. And over here. Yep, this looks right. So we have the first exit, the one we're going to skip. If you keep going. Get down and to the right. And there it is. So let's follow it back to the force field. So now this puzzle is open. And it looks pretty simple. That's because it is. Doesn't really matter how you draw it. You can do whatever you want as long as you get to the end. And there goes the force field. So now we can walk out here. This nice pathway. Got a bunch of trees, and the game is telling me how to run. Yes, I know. So follow the path and look at this little opening over here. You have this nice view. This entire game takes place on an island. It is not completely unlike the classic puzzle game Myst, in that that also takes place on an island, if I remember correctly. And then here's the next puzzle on this door. So, as you can see, this one is significantly more complex and not quite clear as far as what you're supposed to do. I believe this one is put here to tell you that you're going to come across things that don't make sense to you, and it's okay to come back to them later. So, we'll come back to this later, once we have learned whatever rules are necessary. So, we have to figure out what's going on with these black and white pieces and the light gray squares, as well as these hexagonal pieces on the lines. And we will figure that out shortly. So let's keep moving. Got some nice trees here. Once again, it's a very pretty game. So, looks like this might be the tutorial section for the black and white pieces we saw earlier. Generally, when you see a row of panels like this, it's a tutorial for a new rule. So, let's see what happens with this one. What happens if I go up and then right? And that doesn't work. These all blink red. What about down? Nope. So, the only option left is drawing a straight line between them. And that solves it. So next, this looks pretty similar, but these start and end points are a little different. They're in the corners instead of the sides. But you can assume that the rule is the same. You have to draw a line between the black and the white pieces. And next, what do you think should happen with this one? There's 3 pieces, 2 black and 1 white. Well, if you guessed you have to separate the black from the white, you would be correct. So, as you're seeing, the theme of this set of puzzles is separating colors. And indeed, the rule is you have to separate the black pieces from the white pieces. But of course, it does get a lot more complicated, as they keep adding more and more pieces here. Even still, this one's pretty simple. You can kind of think of it as this line cutting up the block into separate colors. And even though this one looks the same, a different exit makes things a little trickier. So you have to go over here first. So now there are white pieces on either side of the black ones. So that presents a bit more challenge. Let's see what happens here. We've separated the bottom white pieces, and now for the top white piece, there you go. All the whites are separate from the blacks. And no, this game is not racist. I know some of you must be thinking this is kind of a racist rule. But it's just puzzle solving. That's it. Anyway, let's go down here and oh, we can't quite solve this one the same way, can we? Because the exit's on the wrong end. So what else can we do? Let's see. We could try sort of a similar mechanic to one of the earlier ones where the exit changed, where we go across the bottom and then that's still separate. So now we have the solution. And one last one here. This one is a little trickier, but it's still doable. In this case, I make a point of separating the blacks on the outside as opposed to the whites on the outside, if that makes any sense. So kind of the inside of the lines are white now, whereas we were doing it the other way around. So this section is now complete, but as you'll see, the rules often come back later and get combined with new ones. So, what do we have next? Looks like there's some stuff over here. Now I got this green puzzle, and this looks similar to the other rule that was on that door. So, I'm sure you can guess what we need to do here, but let's see. If I just do this, what'll happen? That one lights up red. So if you're guessing, we need to cover each of the hexagonal dots, you would be correct. So another pretty simple rule, just make sure you draw lines over each of the points with dots. Of course, it gets a little tricky sometimes, but not quite yet. So let's go over here, make a bit of a zigzag, and there you go. Now how about this one? Let's try this. And it looks like that won't work. also not work. But what about this? I can assure you these took a little more time on my first time through. But I want to make this slightly more interesting than me sitting here for 5 minutes staring at nothing. So, let's see. We go down and left and up. That solves that. And this one has 3 start points. So you kind of got to experiment with it. Looks like that won't work. But what about this? And there we go. So, if you recall the puzzle on the door, it included the black and white squares as well as the hexagonal dots. So, if we go back to the door, in theory we should be able to solve it. Let's take a look. So, this combines the 2 rules, and of course it is a lot more complicated than the other ones, but I have the advantage of having already done this one, so I'm not going to waste too much of your time, but if you're guessing the point we have to start at would be here, I believe you're correct, if I remember correctly. So let's make sure we separate the colors and go over all the hexagonal dots. Alright. And if you hear that plane right now, I do apologize for the background noise. I wasn't expecting a plane this late, but oh well. So, let's see. That's not going to work because then the blacks will be on the whites, or the same size as the whites, as you can see. Alright, let's try this. So, now as you can see, if I'm not mistaken, the blacks are all separate from the whites, and all of the dots have been covered. Let's try it. And there goes the door. Let's see what's inside. So we got a little opening to this tree here. If you position yourself right, that cloud looks like it's white leaves. But more importantly, what's in this box? It looks like a safe, doesn't it? But there's no way to open the safe, at least not from this side. If you go behind, a simple line to draw, and it opens right up. So what is this, you might be wondering? I'm not going to tell you, because while this video is going to spoil some things, I don't want to spoil some of the later game things. This will come into play later, you'll see. So, let's keep moving then. So we've already looked up there, and we have gone down here, but let's continue and see what's down here some more. So now we have a few different ways we can go. We can either follow this path, or go across the field to where it looks like there's another puzzle, that green square. I say we go across the field. Luckily we can run, so this doesn't take super long. And now what do we have here? A bunch of pink trees, as well as this green tree here, with an apple on it. Just one apple. So, if you look at this panel, you'll notice it kind of is shaped like the branches of a tree. So what do you think we have to do here? if your guess was draw a line to the branch with the apple? Let's see if you're correct. Yes, you are. So now let's follow this pink wire. And here's another one. This one's a little different because it is not easily viewable from the angle you have to solve the puzzle at. And that brings me to one thing about this game. There will be points at which you have to take notes. I have actually taken screenshots and drawn on things in Photoshop to figure out puzzles here because it's not always easy enough for me to figure out in my mind. There's nothing wrong with that, it's just how complicated the game can get. But if we look at this tree, you can see it's clearly on one of these branches, but the question is, which side do I have to do it from? My guess would be the other side, seeing as this is all covered up. And in addition, if you look at this, one of the branches is missing. And if you look at the tree, this branch is missing, also on the right side. So we can probably safely assume that this is the orientation we want to look at it from. So, let's draw that line. So let's follow the pink wire. That's the one we came from. And here's the new one. Okay. So, this one gets a little trickier because the branches are twisted. But, as you might guess, the rules pretty much work the same way. And also we have another missing branch, which you can see right there. So, in this case, it looks like we can assume that the correct answer would be this one all the way on the right of the left set. And there we go. Up through this gate. And now we have this. So this one, if you can tell from the broken branch, looks like it is reversed. We have to look at it from the other side and memorize the branch. Alright, you got it. So, let's hope I got it. Because there's a little penalty in some of these puzzles. If you mis-solve them, it'll turn off the puzzle you were trying to solve and you'll have to resolve the one before it. But not everything. Let's hope that doesn't happen to us, because that would be embarrassing. Alright, so what about this one? This one threw me off the first time, if I remember correctly. As you can see, this one is missing several branches on here. And so is this tree. So let's study this. If we look at the branches, we see that matches. If you go on left to right, the first broken branch matches. The second one seems to match. But what about the third one? This one up there. If we look at this diagram, the third one is actually still on here. So that's the odd man out. So let's see here. Wait a second, I forgot. Yes, that one. So if we try drawing to where there should not be a branch on this diagram, will that solve it? Yes, it will. There we go. Now let's follow this. And this just opens up this gate. So that is the end of the tree section. We got this diagram of the human cardiovascular system, if you will. It does quite look a lot like tree branches. The this game doesn't have too much of a story per se. It's mostly symbolic things and themes and philosophy. I almost thought I had forgotten how to pronounce philosophy there. But yeah, so that is it for the trees. We got these nice trees and pots over here. Okay. So what about that path we were going to follow? Let's go take a look at that. So now it's becoming more deserty over here. Got this little canyon we're walking through. And now we come across this building. So now we have one that is 2 starts and 2 ends. But, as you can see, it's a mirror image. Whatever line I draw on one side copies itself on the other side, and you can't overlap. This one's pretty simple. You can just draw it however you want as long as you get to the end. So now we have this room with these vases. And what's interesting about them is that if you look across each line, there are odd shapes that fill in each other's gaps. But if there's some sort of secret involving these, I haven't figured it out myself. So for now, they're just decoration, I guess. Let's keep walking through here. And these look like they should be puzzles, but they're not turned on yet, so let's follow the wires. So now we have this. Once again, it is a mirror image puzzle, but of course, now there are gaps. So it gets a little trickier. So I can't draw up because both sides don't go up. But still nothing too tricky. Alright. So let's try this. There we go. And now, let's go up. Just gotta keep moving. Slowly getting more complicated, but still doable. Here's an interesting one. This has 4 start points, but 2 of them are covered up. So let's start at one of the open ones. As you can see, the mirror image continues even if the start point of mirrors is covered up. But the question is, do we use the outer start points or the inner ones? Let's try the inner ones. I don't quite remember the solution to this one, but we'll find out. It looks like the inner ones work. So we got that nice pattern there. And now, this wall comes down. Got a nice view of the ocean, but nothing much else. It looks like a panel that is not activated yet. So I guess we'll have to come back to that later. Well, let's follow the newly lit green wire and find these puzzles that were turned off before. Again, these are mirror images, but from opposite corners now instead of one side, so it gets a little trickier. Alright. Still not too tricky. But there are over 600 puzzles in this game, if I remember correctly, so there's lots of room for things to get interesting, if you will. And by interesting, I mean infuriatingly difficult. I did quit this game out of anger several times in the later parts, but it was worth finishing. made me feel like an idiot and smart at the same time. That's the best kind of puzzle game. So as you can see, that will not work. So what about this? Nope. There we go. And now, let's try this. Okay. Looks pretty similar to the last one. And now we have this really warped one. So we're just gonna have to start from the easy end and pay attention to what's going on in the warped corner. This game does like playing with your sense of perspective a lot. In fact, I feel like the number one thing this game does is mess with your sense of perspective, as you might see later. Alright. So let's follow this out here. And this wire is going outside. It seems to be rather long. We've got this pretty view here. Up the ramp. And as you might notice, there's no way to walk off the edge in this game. It's a pretty peaceful game, which is why I chose it. So now we have this door. And now you can see it is another one of these hexagonal dots. Let's try it. Pretty simple. And now this gate's open. So what about this gate? This is covered up by panels. So let's follow this wire. Let's go down here. Uh-oh, these aren't on either. Let's keep following the wire. Some interesting red trees going on here. They almost look like they've been painted on. And as you can see, more dead panels and more wire. But eventually, you come across a puzzle. So now we're going to start combining rules. We've got the mirror images with the hexagonal dots. Nothing too difficult. At least not yet. Now it's going to start getting a little trickier. I may or may not have played this section earlier today, so hopefully I will not waste too much time trying to figure these out. Alright. Let's see here. I think that works. And one last one on this set. Alright, so let's concentrate. Now let's follow the new wire. These are blue. And now we have something new. Multicolored hexagonal dots. These are blue, and these are yellow. So as you can see, the mirror images are different colors now. The side I start with is blue, and the other side is yellow. And I think it's pretty obvious what we need to do here. We need to cover up the dots that match the color of the line we have. Still nothing too fancy, but of course, always a little trickier. Uh-oh. Looks like I messed that one up. Wonder why. Well, the reason was I had the wrong colors. I was doing blue over yellow. So let's start from the opposite corner and do the same thing. So now my blue is in the upper right. But here's a predicament. If I do this and cover them all, it's still the wrong color for the yellow in the upper left. So what we gotta do is cover the correct colors. Now, let's see. This one has 4 different exits, so there are different ways it could be going. Let's take a look. So I don't think it matters which exit I use for that one. It's pretty simple. And now this throws in the black dots. And those are also pretty simple. It's just cover up the right color and also make sure the black ones are covered up. Now this one has very few dots, so it looks simple. But nothing in this game is quite as simple as it seems. Or at least, most things aren't. So as you can see, if I want to go this way and get both dots, it's not too difficult. But I was having a momentary lapse in judgment there where I thought it was. Alright, let's see here. Alright. Now this one I did not play earlier today, so it may take me a minute. So this is almost the solution, but it neglects that black dot. So not quite. But to me it looks like that black dot needs to be the last thing I get on the way up. What about, nope. Or maybe, that looks right. There we go. So now we have multicolored wires here. Let's follow them over here. And you guessed it, more puzzles. Okay, so let's try this. That's not going to work. So, let's see. You kind of have to be thinking about 2 things at once when you do these. Keeping track of both sides for each little change you make with the lines. The trick is getting those in the upper corner. this is taking me a lot longer than I thought it would. But that's okay. And the solution is also pretty obvious, I'm sure. But when I'm filming a video and I'm under pressure to get this done, my brain kind of stops working sometimes. So close, yet so far. I'm probably not even on the right track. So let's try something a little different. Let's see if we can start from the other side and make any progress. It's probably a bad idea. I'm gonna say no. Okay. So let's try this. I think I might be on something. Probably not, but maybe. Okay, okay. And there it is. There is a very immense feeling of satisfaction with some of the puzzles in these games. Or this game. This is only one game. But, yes, okay. Right. And oftentimes, I'll do a puzzle and I'll realize that the next puzzle is significantly easier for me after I'm stuck on one. But what's going on with this over here? Why is this getting darker? That's the question. And it's even darker now. Bet you can't guess what's going to happen next. If your guess was the yellow line is going to eventually disappear, you may be correct. So, like I said, this game likes to mess with you sometimes. But thankfully, this puzzle is quite simple. Aside from the fact that I don't know what I'm doing half the time. You're just gonna have to imagine what the yellow one looks like. Let's start from this end. So, if we imagine that there is a yellow one on the opposite, would this make sense? I think it might. Oops. There we go. And one last one. Thankfully there are no blue dots on here, at least not that I've noticed yet, but you still have to take into account the yellow ones. So let's go across here, and now, I believe this would be correct, maybe? Let's hope my mind's eye is accurate. That it is. So now, we got that wire going up there. And let's see if we can get this gate open. That we can. Okay. Once again, it's just a simple mirror image with the hexagonal pieces. Usually when you unlock gates like this, or when you turn them on, the gates are much simpler than the puzzles leading up to them. Just as a kind of bite-sized reward. So now, we have these puzzles, along with this at the end. Bet you're wondering what's in that box. Well, we're going to find out. So, this. Puzzles look kind of similar, but there's no dots on here, so let's see what happens if I just go ahead and nope. So, you're probably thinking, this is what that puzzle should look like. You might be correct, so let's solve the puzzle with the dots and then copy it on the other side, if we can. Okay, there's one. Now, let's mirror it. If I can remember this correctly. I think I can. There it is. There's the first two. Now we got something similar here. Not even going to bother with the other one. A little more complicated. That's not going to work. But this might. So it goes down. That kind of zigzags. Let's see if I can remember that. Probably not. Or maybe. I had a little trouble with these the first time because my memory isn't so great. At least not when it comes to drawing lines and grids. Now there are 4 start points here. So the real question is which one's the right one. Looks like it might just be this. But this one threw me off the first time. Look closely at this. I was going to try drawing this same pattern, mirrored, like the other ones, but it won't work, because the exit is in this lower corner, whereas in the upper one up here. So the whole thing is actually rotated 180 degrees. So if I was to turn myself upside down, I would draw that line. So let's think about this. In this case, we would want to go up and then down. So I got this right. And we do. So now we can find out what's in the box. Something's happening. What is that? So it's some sort of contraption. And it's going up there. And it is doing something. Got a little spinning bit on the end. And now it's turning. And there's a laser. And where's that laser going? Looks like there's a mountain up there. So at this point in the video, because I'm not going to show you the whole game, it took me over 20 hours to beat. I think I'm just going to kind of explore the island a little bit, at least the parts that we can explore right now, but not really solve many or any puzzles. Just kind of walk around here, show you the sights. And if you do like this, if this seems like a game you might want to buy, I suggest you buy it. I was not paid to make this video, but I would highly recommend it if you like what you've seen so far. It only gets weirder from here. So we've got this nice open area. We got whatever this thing is. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it might come into play later. Now we can keep moving. desert over here, along with this sort of pit. And it looks to me like there might be another yellow box down there, but we can't get that for now. And we have this, what looks like very old ruins of something. Almost being held together by these bars. And of course there's some more puzzles. Something interesting about these puzzles though. There are several of them. And they're all the same shape. So, what do you think you have to do with these? That's the question. You may have just seen a hint, but I'm not going to tell you. Let's keep moving. So, leaving the desert, we have these dead trees up here, followed by several live trees off in the distance. We have a rock quarry over here, and a little waterfall. And of course, another yellow box. There are several yellow boxes in this game, and you can probably guess what they do, but what is their ultimate purpose? That is the question. You can find out if you play the game yourself. So let's go over here. Let's keep looking around. Here's the entrance to the quarry. As you can see, there are puzzles to get in there. We're not going to do that now, as we have not yet learned the rules for that puzzle, which you can barely see. And we got some fall-looking trees over here. Along with some more puzzles. But, again, we're not going to do these here. There's a small chance I could do another video about this game if you guys like it, but I'm not making any promises just yet. So let's keep moving. Now into the greener part of the forest. It's a rather large section of puzzles over here. And it looks like sort of back door to a castle over here, but we can't get through. Not yet. So let's get out of this forest. So if we go over here, we have a large open field. You can see the mountain in the distance. And then here's this castle from the front. Let's see what's inside. Let's buy another box up there. As you can guess, there are more puzzles in here. You can see one over there. But I'm not going to show you too much of this. It's mostly just puzzles. This one presents an interesting mechanic, along with some strange statues. So let's get out of the castle for now. Or actually, before I do, if I remember correctly, there is a nice view up here at the top of the tower. If we can get there, we might not be able to without solving these puzzles, if I remember correctly. Yeah, probably not. Okay, so that's enough of the castle. And across the field, what do we have over here? Looks like some sort of temple. But we'll have to find another way in. So here's the front entrance. And as you can guess, there are several puzzles in there. But we're not going to do them. We'll just take a little peek inside. Let's go back over here. So over here, we've got an interesting little town of sorts. But the puzzles in this town are actually some of the hardest in the game. So we're not even going to bother here. But you can't guess what you're supposed to do here. Or here. Okay. So, let's go back across this bridge here. And over here. What's over here? Got a bit of a marsh over here. And this marsh is home to the rule that gave me some of the most trouble during my first playthrough. These yellow blocks. Don't even get me started on the yellow blocks. We're not even going to bother. Let's keep moving though. Got a nice waterfall. And looks like we're making our way up the mountain. A nice view at the top of the mountain, in case you were wondering. So let's keep moving up. There's another yellow box on the back side of the mountain. Now let's carefully cross these tree roots. And now let's go up here. Sort of a sculpture of a person. I'm going to walk on top of here. Nice view. But we're not at the top yet. Gotta follow the laser. It's getting a bit chilly up here now. See snow on the ground. Hope you don't have a fear of heights. And up here we have more statues, along with the end of the first laser, coming all the way over from there. We got this guy, we got these arches, and we have this sculpture. As you can see, one of the latches is gone, now that we have one of the lasers. So what do you think will happen when we unlock all of them? So let's just look out from the top here for a moment. And then here looks like some sort of facility built into the mountain. But there's another puzzle. And this one, while it looks obvious, I actually had trouble solving myself. Because as you can see, if you do it in a way where you would think the lines should meet, they get stuck in the wrong places. So I didn't actually figure this one out myself. At least not yet, but I haven't spent too much time on it. Maybe one day. I'll find out what's behind that door. Chances are I'm just being stupid about it, but oh well. Let's keep moving around the backside of the mountain. Got these multicolored flowers here. Some more down there in an interesting pattern. And if we keep moving, we have a sort of jungle area. But I'm not going to go into there. Not yet. Or not today, that is. Those of you who have played the game may know why I'm not going into the jungle in this video. But that also depends on whether or not I leave the sound in. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave the sound in for this video. The game sound, that is. I'll see how jarring it is in editing. But by now you already know what happened. I'm just talking. So at this point we're kind of reaching full circle, and if I keep going over there, we'll be back near where we started. So what I'm going to do now to end the video is show you what's over here. If you walk out on these rocks, you'll see this puzzle here. It's kind of shaped like something. And the wire goes down into the water. And now what's this? We have a boat. And this boat, there are several places it stops. And it kind of lets you fast travel around the island. But it also has some very nice views. It's quite peaceful. So to end this video, I will be getting on the boat and taking you around the island. And I believe I'll stop the commentary here once I start the boat. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you enjoyed this, let me know if you want another episode, if you will. And maybe I might try playing a little more. I don't know, maybe. We'll see. So here we go, on the boat. Just going to take this boat and I'll slow it down a little. Here's the speed. Just going to get ourselves the view.